What small thing happened in your childhood that has affected you for the rest of your life? Find all the secret numbers hidden in the video and post it in the comment with your username to get a chance to win a $50 gift card each month. I went to my older sister's friend's dad's house once when I was a preteen or young teen and I really liked it. Took me years into living on my own to realize I'm subconsciously mimicking the interior decorating of that place. Lol. Watched Jaws when I was 7 in a minivan with my teammates on the way to a soccer tournament. I'm terrified of dark and/or murky water now. Not sure how life-changing it is, but I love swimming and have always lived near either a lake or ocean, so it's limited my fun to an extent. I remember watching a TV show where someone was blackmailed after a person watched them through their webcam. I was always afraid someone would watch me through my webcam or camera, so I would always block it out or angle the screen away from me. I still do it. I have webcam covers now too. Manipulative and narcissistic parents that has boundary issue turns me into them. I always thought that's just how the world works. Now it takes so much effort and willpower to catch myself not acting like them. My sister's evil little budgie attacked and bit me when I was about 8. Since then I've harbored a deep hatred for most birds. Exceptions, oddly enough, include large birds of prey. The feeling is so strong that if I get really tired I sometimes start talking about how all birds are evil. My friends think it's hilarious, but I refuse to be around the creepy little leftover dinosaurs. Cousin threw a frog at me when we were little and it got stuck in my shirt. Have been terrified of frogs ever since. One day I went fishing with my cousin's family, and while we were walking along the beach the fish hook got stuck in my leg. I now won't fish even if I am at a fishing trip. Bullied by brothers makes me always question myself anytime I do something I wouldn't want to embarrass other people. Feel like I pass it down to people who remind me of myself. It's strange. As a small child I got dumped by a wave at the beach and my dad had to lift me out of the water. I'm still deathly afraid of big surf, but now I surf big waves to try and overcome it. My sister bumped into me from behind and her bike and knocked me over. I landed full face down and cut my upper lip on the pavement. Since then I jump out of my skin if someone rides a bike too close to me. When I was 6 years old, my father had an addition built onto our house. My brother and I used to play on the large sand pile that came from digging the basement. One afternoon I ran up into the sand pile and stepped on a large fox snake. While harmless, it did strike at me, and ever since then I can't get near a snake. Even little grass snakes and garter snakes scare the shit out of me. When my grandma called an African American man the N-word for no reason, I was confused but always stuck by how wrong it felt. It's about the only thing I'd thank her for. Edit. I was 5. That was 1965. I drowned when I was around 5 years old. I was hanging onto the side of a pool float and went to the deep end when it flipped over on top of me. Next thing I remember was puking water and surrounded by people crying. Ever since I do not like to be in water where I can't touch, even though I know how to swim very well. My mum thought it'd be a good idea to take me through a horror house type thing when I was 3. I don't even remember it, but I sure remember the feeling when I see one. 30 years strong without going into another. Went to grab seconds of a dessert and I got called a garbage can for food. I wasn't even fat back then, but I'm 30 pounds heavier now and I can still hear those words in my head. Didn't help there were approximately 10 other people who heard it too. I got slapped by a total stranger in a grocery store at 5 years old. I haven't liked people from that day on. I was one of those super quiet, weird girls in high school, and there were a couple times when some of the popular girls would talk to me and ask me questions, only for me to realize after the fact that they were only doing it so they could make fun of me. Together later. It's been over 10 years since the last time that happened, and to this day anytime someone is nice to me out of the blue, part of me still gets suspicious and wonders if they're just doing it as some sort of joke at my expense. There's one guy that always bully me. If it's just a typical bully I can deal with it. But this FC King guy decided to pull my DCK. Literally. He pull it to the side until it hurts a lot, and the result? My D**CK is now curved. Only actually became a revelation to me. But my older sister used to be awful to me. She would anger me to the point where I'd want to punch or kick her. She'd tell me to, then say that she hardly felt it, making me cry, and then walk away in pain. I stuck around her though and still love her, but damn, that actually explains quite a bit. Such as how I constantly avoid conflict out of fear of not being able to fight back well enough. My dad said I was getting chubby and my brothers laughed. That certainly turned into a body-obsessed string of behaviors. I met a kid a year older than me when I was 8 years old. He became my bestie and my lover, and he dead rejected me when I was 13. Knowing him changed everything in my life. When I was about 8 or 9, I gained 50 pounds in 1 year. Doctors couldn't figure out why. Since then, I have always been overweight and struggle immensely to lose it no matter how much I diet or exercise. I also have an aversion to diet since my mother made me diet since I gained that weight as a child. And it was borderline traumatic to think about my looks, my weight and what I ate as a young child, and feeling immense shame over something over which I had no control. Parents missed my birthday when I was about 5. I don't remember, celebrate anyone's birthday and dread anyone celebrating mine. Is it effect or effect in this case? I thought it was effect? Carry on. When I was 12, my best, closest friend, who is now my girlfriend, got together a few months ago. Tried to, and successfully did, seduce me into letting her perform affectionate favors, as she put it. It was amazing. And I loved it. But I feel it changed me for better and for worse. Learning the difference between affect and effect. Every teacher that told my mom that I had ADHD and she refused to get me tested. So much of my life could be very different. I saw a boy with his leg trapped under an escalator railing. I was afraid for a while about using them, and I was always very conscious of where my feet were and how I was stood on them. I still get a small feeling in the bottom of my stomach every time I use one. Learning the difference between affected and effected. Now every time I see it misused online or in text, I feel my 4th grade teacher screaming at me. Thanks for the PTSD. Also, same teacher who wouldn't let you use the restroom if you said, "Can I use the restroom?" instead of, "May I use the restroom?" When I was like 5, my family moved into my mom's friend's old house. Well, there was a stripper pole in my parents' bedroom. The very first thing I did when I got into the room was start swinging on the pole from someone else's paw. It looked like I was dancing. Remember, I was 5 years old. I never forgot this. Now every time I see a pole, I want to swing on it. But I don't, because I would look like a total slut. I learned the difference between affected and effected. And now I can barely go a day without being triggered by something I see on Reddit. During my very first therapy session, my therapist wanted to talk to my dad, and during this talk my dad told her that my bad knee is me faking it to get out of stuff. Now I ignore my illnesses and pain until it's almost too late. I watched soap operas when I was young. There was a storyline where the lady was proper by day and a wild child at night. Her two personalities didn't know about each other. I still think about that and wonder what would clue me in if that happened to me. Getting picked to be Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for a school play because I was awkward and had glasses. It only made me feel like even more of a misfit. And then after I forgot my lines in front of everyone, I developed pretty nasty social anxiety. Seriously though, the teacher should have let someone volunteer. My mother didn't like it when me and my siblings showed any emotion other than happy excitement. We also have to express our happiness quietly. Every time when we would cry or get mad, she would tell us to stop because, you have a house, food, etc. Why are you unhappy? There are other less fortunate. Now I have trouble processing and expressing emotions. When I was a kid, I had this habit of telling one of my best friends who my crush was. I did this and she turned around and told everyone who I had a crush on. I felt really embarrassed, but she was sorry and so I forgave her. I developed another crush, told her, and then she went and did the same thing. After that, I learned my lesson. Now, I have trust issues. But hey, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Someone told me that gum was cow fat. And I haven't chewed a piece since. Yes. I have chewed single-digit pieces of gum. Yes. I know that doesn't make sense to you. I've heard it a million times, lol. Being bullied in elementary school and middle school. Parents had a serious car accident. Nobody died, but both were damaged. Family development was disrupted, etc. Ha 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 ha. Too many to remember. Traumatized kids, where you at? I'm not sure how small this is, but being told that I was faking my depression by my peers in high school caused me to suffer in silence until well into college. I haven't eaten lunch out of a lunchbox in a while, so it's hard to say if it's still the case. But in second grade there was a girl who would come over and ask for parts of my lunch. I have kept my lunch hidden away in my lunchbox for most of the time since. My mom told me that if I don't stop misbehaving at school she would send me to a mental asylum. Used this threat several times. Been scared of asylums since, and when I was little I was terrified every time my parents talked to the phone with anyone because I was convinced they were making the appointment. Also was the reason I was scared to come home from school. My brother choking me over lashing out at the new puppy we had, which my parents suspected was caused by the last dog we had, which was a terrifying monster to the then tiny child that was me. IDK if I'll ever get a dog because of that. When I was about 9/10, I watched my father slowly collapse into unconsciousness while suffering a nervous breakdown. He was leaning against the wall in the hallway and just slowly slid down to the floor, starting to snore part of the way down. Spent a lot of time in therapy learning to cope with what I saw. But it's had a lasting impact on my mental and emotional health. Almost got kidnapped. It doesn't affect me much. Always been curious though. When I was 10 my uncle heard me rehearse my Patrick Henry speech for a play in 5th grade. He was so impressed that he said I possessed mean orator skills and would be a lawyer and maybe go into politics. Well, that little tow-headed kid grew up and went into sales. My mom was screaming at me so violently at one point in 4th grade I honestly thought she was going to start beating me and was truly contemplating jumping out of the car and into traffic to get away. To this day, hearing someone raise their voice above a normal volume makes me antsy. And if there's anger in that voice, I just cower and try to hold back tears. When I was 4 years old, my parents used to give me the mail to open it. I was helping them house sit for a neighbor and I helped my mom get the mail. I opened all of their mail. My mom said I can't open other people's mail or I would go to jail for a long time. To this day I will only open up mail that is addressed to me. I refuse to open my wife's or anything that is not directly addressed to me.